Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the absolute, you have the deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders. Why are there so many Batman? And why are they hanging out with Ra's al Ghul? I am the Uncanny Omar, you're watching Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Join me today for my overview of the Elseworlds Batman Omnibus Volume 1 from DC Comics. Let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So what we are looking at here today is a unique Batman Omnibus. Well, I guess it won't be that much more unique when Volume 2 comes out, but we are looking at the very first Elseworlds Omnibus from DC Comics. This is Elseworlds Batman Omnibus. And I think it's going to get its own little imprint. You see the bullet logo here, the Elseworlds logo, and I talked about the different Batman. That all comes from the story Brotherhood of the Bat. And then the spine of the book right here with the Elseworlds logo, the DC logo, Batman in big bold letters, Omnibus Volume 1. Welcome to a world of endless possibilities. What is collected in here, the Bat logo, the ISBN. Now this one does retail for $175. The stories in here, some of them, not all of them, have been previously printed before in a series of trade paperbacks. Man, do I love this, and it's finally available in an oversized format. And speaking of oversized format, some of them, basically the very first one and one of the very best, has been printed in a deluxe edition, and I'll do a comparison here in a little bit. What this is really is your what if kind of stories. If you're familiar with Marvel's What If, that's what this is. That's what the Elseworld imprint was. It's not set in the main universe. It's just possible stories, and you're going to be seeing a lot of different takes on the character of not just Batman, but also Bruce Wayne, and perhaps some of his allies and enemies. And here's a bunch of the internal artwork. The Batman logo, I do believe that is the exact same logo that they're using for the spine of the book here. Yep. And then the back of the book right here. Again, showcasing Norm Brayfogle. Man, he was so good. Some of the type of art you'll be seeing through these pages. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and talk about some of the stories, of course not every single one, and showcase the type of artwork in here, the type of story it is, and look and see if there's any extras, and of course look at the build of the book. Okay, let's go ahead and get this omnibus opened. You have your black end sheets there. Elseworlds Batman Omnibus. Again, different artists and different takes on the Caped Crusader. Over here on the left-hand side are your credits. You have Brian Augustine. You've got Mike W. Barr, Alan Brennert, Howard Chaykin, Alan Grant, Doug Mensch, Christopher Priest, Mark Waid, and then pencilers like Neil Adams, Jim Aparo, Jim Ballant, Norm Brayfogle, Tom Lyle, Mike Mignola, Dave Taylor, John Bolton's art in here is, so good. Mark Chiarello, who doesn't get enough recognition during, well, especially during this time. Gary Frank, Kelly Jones, who kills it with one of my favorite stories. Inkers over here, like Eduardo Barreto, Enrique Alcatena, and then Tom Grumet, Bo Hampton, Tom Lyle, Mike Manley, Graham Nolan, colorists like Phil Allen, John Bolton, and Noel Giddings, Gina Going, letterers like Pat Brozo, and Albert de Guzman, Todd Klein. Your table of contents, where you're going to find each and every one of these stories. And before you ask, yes, there are page numbers, especially towards the front. When you get towards the back, not so much. The other important thing that they give you here is the information on who the cover artist was. And not just the page number, but when it was published. And the way this book is collected, because these stories have been collected before, as I showed you in trade paperbacks. There's also these Batman Elseworld trades that they did. These are mapped different. These are actually mapped in publishing order, which makes it interesting because there's a particular story here, like Night Gallery, that actually could be read after this right here, The Brotherhood of the Bat. But they put it in publishing order. It's not going to ruin anything, I promise, from that story. So what is collected in here? Collected in here is Gotham by Gaslight, Batman Holy Terror #1, Batman and Dracula Red Rain, Batman Master of the Future, not Monster of the Future, that's a different story. I don't think they made one. Anyway, Batman the Blue, the Gray, and the Bat, Robin 3000 2-issue miniseries, Batman Houdini the Devil's Workshop, Batman Dark Joker the Wild, Batman in Darkest Night, and that is Night with a K, of course, the Catwoman Annual #1, Detective Comics Annual #7, Batman Annual #18, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Annual #4, Batman Shadows of the Bat Annual #2, Robin Annual #3, and those are all part of the Elseworld crossover story. Well, they don't really cross over into each other's issues. It's part of this Elseworld crossover across all the annuals that year. Batman Castle of the Bat, Batman Bloodstorm, Batman Night Gallery, Batman Brotherhood of the Bat, and then ending it with Batman Man-Bat 1 through 3. This book has a total of 1,376 pages. And again, this one retailing for $175. Okay, so it's going to be hard to talk about these stories without going too much in depth, but I love a lot of this era of Batman. This is when I was huge into getting the character. It was post-Crisis, it was X-Men comics, it was X-Men related comics, some Avengers here and there, some Fantastic Four, but Batman was my other weakness. Especially from the world of DC, I had to get Batman. And sometimes I would get other titles like Robin and, oh my gosh, the spin-offs, forget it. By the time Nightfall came around, I was getting all of them. But I was interested in things like this. I loved What If when I was a kid, so I thought, oh, this is a really cool story. Now, what's interesting about this Gotham by Gaslight, this is, of course, Brian Augustine and Mike Mignola, is that you won't see an Elseworld imprint on there. That's because they didn't really quite know what to call this. So to give you an idea, in case you didn't watch my Gotham by Gaslight or overview of the deluxe edition, this is set in 1889. And again, it's a different world. Not just different dimensions, but also different times too when these characters could have existed. Bruce Wayne, he is in tour in Europe, ends up in Vienna, and he is studying under Dr. Sigmund Freud. So there are a lot of historical characters through here. This is Bruce Wayne Batman against Jack the Ripper. I'll just go ahead and put the spoiler tag up for some of these stories, even though they're alternate reality stories. So yeah, this is basically Batman versus Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper ends up coming to Gotham City. Commissioner Gordon is here. And there's a lot of twists and turns with this story, and that's why a lot of us regard it as one of the greatest Elseworld stories, for it being the first, before it was officially Elseworld. Speaking of officially, and there was a follow-up to this that is collected later on here. Actually, there were a couple follow-ups. They're collected in the deluxe edition, but they'll also be included here, because we are looking now at Holy Terror, and this one is the first comic that had the Elseworld imprint on it. So people kind of knew what to look for. And each one of these, by the way, behind the, or on the opposite side of the cover, will have the credits. So you have Alan Burnett, Norm Brayfogle. I love this guy's art. Him and Jim Aparo were two of my favorite artists. Again, this is an alternate reality, and you can see the past, how it changed this particular time. So it's all set in the 90s, but it goes back to like 1658 to see exactly what little changes there were to make this particular world. You have characters that were very important to Batman during this time, not just Commissioner Gordon, but also Victoria Vale instead of Vicky Vale, playing an important part through here. And it is just basically Bruce Wayne, who is a reverend, becoming Batman to fight the corruption of this world. And one of my favorites, I said I would not go through each and every one of these, and I promise to keep my word. Batman and Dracula Red Rain. Oh my gosh, I have been wanting this book in absolute format. I have been wanting all three of them. So it's not just Batman, Dracula Red Rain. There's also Bloodstorm, which is the follow-up. And then a few years after that, there was Crimson Mist. Now, since this is in publishing order, they just have Red Rain and Bloodstorm in here, but not back to back, which is the way, like, it's been collected for years. It legit is Red Rain, and then when it was published later, a few years later, Bloodstorm. So this is Batman, a possible alternate reality, written by Doug Moench. Kelly Jones is the artist. Malcolm Jones III is your inker, and he is investigating a series of murders, and these murders happen to be homeless people in Gotham cities whose throats seem to have been cut. And he ends up discovering a world of vampires. And this world of vampires are all led by Count Dracula. And then we have this rogue vampire named Tanya who ends up falling for Batman and ends up kind of helping him. And she ends up infusing him with the vampiric powers. So by the end of the story, actually by a third of the way in, Batman does have these particular powers. He becomes a vampire, which is kind of shown on the cover. But man, I love this art. I think Malcolm Jones III did such a phenomenal job finishing out Kelly Jones inks. They're not as like the heavy inks that we see, especially when you get to like the Nightfall crossover. It seems like it's a lighter tone with more defined lines. There's still some heavy contrast going on, but if you look at that, this is actually more, reminds me a lot more of Mike Mignola and less of Kelly Jones. And this is honestly my favorite type of Kelly Jones artwork. And there's nothing wrong with the stuff that he did later on with Doug Moench when he took over Batman. I really love that stuff. But this was so good. Now, in each and every one of these stories, I believe this is the follow-up, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Batman Elseworlds, The Master of the Future. Every one of these, you will see characters from Batman's life show up through here. In every one of them, you'll have cameos that will be either Robin or a version of Robin, whether it's Tim Drake, whether it's Dick Grayson, whether it's Jason Todd, you'll have a Joker, you'll have a Commissioner Gordon, sometimes you'll have a Barbara Gordon in here. And Master of the Future is the sequel to the Gotham by Gaslight. So it's another Victorian Batman facing off against another villain. And this is what the art looks like. And this is Batman Blue, the Blue, the Gray, and the Bat. And now we have the different writers and artists working on this part of the book. So this is one that is taking place again in the past. Some of these take place in the past. Some of them take place in present day. Some of them take place in the future. And this one, from the looks of it, I'm sure you can probably tell, is that it's taken place in the American Civil War. Now, Batman is not by himself here. He's actually joined by Robin through these pages. And speaking of Robin, 3000 is actually collected in here. P. Craig Russell doing this art. I don't think I appreciated this story as much when I was younger, or because of P. Craig Russell's art. I don't think I learned to appreciate him until I was well into my 20s. There's just something really cool about his art. And going back, this is the one of the... So I did not read the whole thing. I did not reread everything in here. I've read these stories before. But some of them I did go back and reread. Robin 3000 being one of them. Because I haven't read it in years. I don't think it's ever been collected. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they collected Robin 3000 in anything. And what's so cool about going back and reading these particular stories about Robin is that I get a completely different feel from it. It feels and reads more like a European comic. And maybe that was the point, even in the way that it's colored by P. Craig Russell and Laverne Kandinsky. And this is a teenager who is a descendant of Bruce Wayne and battling an alien invasion and dressing like Robin. That's what this is. And it's got this Mobius feel to it. It's got, like I mentioned, a European feel to it. And then this is the Batman Houdini story. Again, I don't think Mark Chiarello gets his due in here because, man, his art is solid through these pages. Speaking of like that black and white contrast, my gosh, it is just so good. And it's basically your team up of Batman with Houdini fighting against... Boy, there was a big thing about vampires back then. But that's what that is about. Kelly Jones returns for the Bloodstorm story here. This time around with... Let me see. This is... I want to say... Doug mentioned Kelly Jones. And... Oh, no. This is the Dark Joker... The Wild. I'm so sorry. This is a little bit different. This is not the Bloodstorm. That happens a little bit later. And this one is about Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker, who happens to be an evil wizard during this time. So now he is fighting off against an actual Batman. More like a man-bat. This guy right here. Sometimes, by the way, it's Bruce Wayne. And then sometimes it's another Wayne or another character. This is in Darkest Night, written by Mike W. Barr. Jerry Bingham is the artist on this one. And this is pretty much what if Batman had become Green Lantern. There's a couple of changes here that happen. And then what about the rest of the Green Lantern Corps? Who are they going to be if not Hal Jordan and Kilowog and characters like that? This is the Catwoman story. Oh, this one is really cool because there's an actual twist in this one. So remember when I said the Elseworlds were kind of crossing over with all of the DC titles? So Catwoman is one of them. And this is by Christopher Priest and Federico Cueva. There's a twist as to who this Catwoman is, though. It's not Selina Kyle, I will say that much. And it's all taking place in the 14th century, where you do have an actual weird cat woman. And the rest of the stories will be, yes, these type of Elseworld stories that feature Batman. So this one's Detective Comics. And you can probably guess that this one is about a pirate. So Batman has been transformed into a pirate. What is it? Is it Leatherwing? Leatherwing, I think. Captain Leatherwing is his name. And then up against people like Joker. This is the Doug mentioned Federico Cueva Black Masterpiece. This one is really cool because this one features a young Thomas who is the apprentice to Leonardo da Vinci. And he sees his parents get killed. But how does that affect modern day Batman? So this is one of the more strangest stories because you have a story that is set in the past and you've got a story that is set in present day. This is Citizen Wayne, which is a take of course, Citizen Kane. This is the Shadow of the Bat story that features not just Batman, but also at the time he was a pretty big character. He was Anarchy. So this is, man, Batman is pretty ruthless in this story. But yeah, it is Anarchy, who's kind of like your secondary character, like almost like the other lead character. Then we have Robin through here. And as I mentioned, all these stories are set in different times. So Robin, for example, is set during feudal Japan. And this particular Robin is the apprentice to the Bat Ninja. It's weird how that has actually been, not that particular story, but we've had like a Batman Samurai story. This is the Castle of the Bat with Bo Hampton on artwork through here. This one's pretty much your story that is loosely based on Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. This time around, a young Bruce Wayne, or later on becoming Batman, tries to resurrect, well, somebody, and it just doesn't go the way that he thought it was going to go. But it is a take on, of course, the classic Frankenstein. And then we have, here is the follow-up. This is Bloodstorm. So this is the follow-up to Red Rain. And so let's keep going here a little bit. Again, I love this type of artwork. This is what I was talking about. This is the Night Gallery. So Night Gallery is kind of like the handbook of the Brotherhood of the Bat. The different type of Batman that will all be part of the Brotherhood of the Bat that belongs to Ra's al Ghul. Now, what do these characters have to do with the main story? It's the cover. Well, you will have to find out. And are any of them Batman? Are any of them a resurrected Batman? This one is taking place about, I think it's like 50 years into the future. And somebody is putting a stop to this. A new Batman is standing up to this Brotherhood of the Bat. Now, after this is when you get the last... Yeah, these are the last 3 stories that are collected in here. This is Man-Bat. I have the trade paperback. I had the single issues. It is a weird story. I don't know how people really felt about this one. This one is written by Jamie Delano, who of course had written Swamp Thing and went on to do some stuff for Hellblazer. Or kicked off Hellblazer, really. But the main reason I got this was John Bolton's art. Man, did I love his artwork. I fell in love. Him and Chris Claremont, both of them had that wolf story that they did. Oh my gosh, what is it called? It was an independent title. But anyway, I really liked that book. But I remember getting these as a kid, and I was like, wow, this is dark. I didn't know there were Elseworld stories. Yeah, they do tell you. I just thought, wow, this is a really messed up story. It's a weird story. I just went back and reread it. I haven't read it in a few years. But it's all about this animal rights activist. Her name is Marilyn Monroe. And Monroe's spelled a little different than the actress, Marilyn Monroe. Anyway, she infiltrates this remote facility where they're doing this genetic experimentation. You can probably guess what the experiments are on. But one of the things that happens through here is that you learn that Man-Bat has a family. There's some partial nudity in this one. I wonder... I forgot to look at what the rating is. Printed in Canada. They ain't got no rating. Anyway, there's booty and some little bit of frontal nudity going on. But anyway, you find out that Man-Bat has a family through here. It's a weird story, especially going back to it now, but one that I remember fondly when I was younger. Now, in the back, we do have extras, like the many trade paperback reprint editions of these particular stories, and character designs. Hey, the Man-Bat book. Original art from Gotham by Gaslight. Covers. And this is Red Rain. And then this is from Bloodstorm. And then your end sheet. So let's talk about the binding, and then we'll do a quick little comparison. 1,376 pages. It does have sewn binding and printed in this glossy paper stock. So the very first thing we're going to do is look at the way this looks compared to the Gotham by Gaslight Deluxe Edition, which also has the Master of the Future story in here. And the paper stock is, I can tell you, already different. Has like almost like a matte finish to it. A glossy finish to it is over here, of course, like I mentioned, but over here, it's like a, not quite satin, but also not quite matte paper stock. Let's look at some with color. Yeah, let's look at some of these colors here. This one also has the Convergence story, so if you're thinking, wait a second, is everything in here and here? No, not really. It does have Master of the Future story, but it doesn't have the Convergence issues. And just one more page here. Actually, it's weird because this looks a little bit lighter compared to this. This looks just a little more vibrant. And I can tell by the skin tone. Yeah. Okay. Let's compare it to the trade paperback here. I want to say this is like the 4th or 5th printing of this trade paperback. Whoa. The pages are already yellowing on these trades. And this is what, of course, I have to compare that. Hold on a second. Here we go. Yeah. I mean, the art is obviously just a little bit bigger because we're talking about an omnibus size compared to the trade paperback over here. The trade paperback using a sort of like a... This one definitely has satin paper stock. And one of the most interesting things, though, is the scans are different. And what I mean by that is the scans, like if you look at the background here when Batman's in his Batmobile, looks like there's some artifacts going on back there, whereas over here it's just like a flat blue and purple going on. But you can notice the artifacts over here. So these are definitely new scans that they're using, or it seems like they're using. And just a couple more pages. All right, let's get to the Man-Bat. Man-Bat trade, which had the extras in the front. There we go. Opening pages. And both of these using a glossy paper stock. And, wow. I don't know if you can tell or not, but these scans are lighter than the scans they're using for the Omnibus. Like, you can see right there Marilyn's face, just how much darker that side of her face is compared to over here. It's a little bit lighter, and I'm not, so you can see it's not the actual lights, it's the actual scans. So let's look at something else. Yeah, usually these tend to be a little bit lighter. Maybe it's the type of paper stock they were using. I don't know what it is, but this looks a little bit smoother than over here. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. Let's get to yeah, something like this. So you can see it's a little bit yellower over here, but it's definitely darker than over here. It seems like the scans on this one, or maybe it's the paper stock they're using, show this to be a little bit lighter. That is really interesting. Yeah, he looks a little bit darker. But that is it. That is what Elseworlds Batman Omnibus Volume 1 is. Hopefully we'll get a Volume 2. Then, of course, some more DC characters, Elseworlds. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was the content, the page count, and build of this book. In the comments down below, let me know if you plan on picking this up, if you were a huge fan of these Elseworld stories, what your favorite ones were. Doesn't have to just be Batman, it could be Superman, could be Wonder Woman, or the Justice League, whatever it was, let me know in the comments down below. And what was your first one? That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.